of data collection happening on our kids, right? So I'll get into that after we talk about how bad is it? Really, how bad is it? Anybody?
Well, where do we start? We've been talking about this so much for over a year, and we're so grateful to be able to talk about it with you, but we're going to be able to cover it all today. For me, the real big issue is for losing our freedoms. We can arm wrestle all day long about whether the standards are worse or better. I think they're worse. Some teachers will think they're better. But that's not really what's important. What's important is we can't make any amendment to these standards. It goes outside the constitutional framework. There's no representation. There's no voice. The moms and the dads can't just go to the principal and say, we don't like something in the standards, because it's all written behind closed doors by the NGA and the CCSSO, and we literally don't have a voice. I know a lot of teachers, I'm not teaching currently, I'm homeschooling my son, but I know a lot of teachers who feel such pressure to advocate for Common Core to parents, and they don't feel good about it. In fact, sometimes they're asked to advocate, like David was saying, before they've even been shown the standards.
Why is that? Why are they doing it?
They want everybody to just come on board. Don't worry about the details. Just all come on board right now, because it's good. It's for sure. It's all right. Everyone's already looked at it. It's proven. We don't need to do anything.
But it hasn't been proven. There's no doubt it has not been proven.
Momentum is the only thing they've got going. They've foisted this on the American people by circumventing our structures of government.
Get it in place before anybody figures it out.
So 45 states now, momentum, that's all they've got going, and they've got to push.
There's stuff, there's books out and everything approved by Common Core. I mean, you'll see in the, in the bookstores and everything else. I mean, Common Core is absolutely everywhere.
The majority of the curriculum for all the states now is going to Common Core. All of them. In fact, it's difficult to find curriculum that isn't Common Core aligned. So if you don't like the way that the new math is being taught, or anything about the new Common Core, you're going to have to go buy old textbooks that were written before Common Core.
I have to tell you, I'm looking at the addition problems are going into regroups, and I mean, I don't mean to judge, and maybe it's just my old thinking, but this is insane.
Yeah.
This just looks insane to me. It's convoluted, and I mean, it's not clear thinking.
They want the children to learn to add the tens first before the single digits, group into tens. So that's what that's about, and they're.
But that to me seems like seriously dumbing things.
It is, and it makes math much more difficult than it ever should be, because math should be an elegant language where you teach the simplistic way so you can understand it. And here they try to make it much more difficult. And even
if there's a standard algorithm, this is the best way to solve a problem. That's what young children should be learning.
Right. I mean, there's no way you can find the God particle or even know what the God particle is if you're learning how to do math like that. Because by the time you get up into higher math, it doesn't look like that.
Right.
And that's why Common Core delays their development in math to the point by 8th grade,
because
they're up to 2 years behind.
Right.
And here's what's causing that. They think the education experts that from the colleges want to teach the why to everything first. In other words, they're trying to put the roof on before the foundation's even laid. And so, and they argue that, and it sounds really good. Higher level thinking, we're going to teach deep understanding, but it doesn't do that. What it does is it gets those kids to look back at math, and they see this wonderful building that they are in awe of, that they'll never be able to understand or do themselves. If we teach them how to do it first, and as they grow in understanding, then they can understand why is it that it works that way.
Let me play devil's advocate, because the first question each one of us asks is why. When you stop asking why, that's when you grow old, and that's when you stop learning. So why is it bad to teach the why first?
The difference is it's really popular to talk about student-centered learning, which sounds great. But the problem is when student-centered learning takes the place of instruction from a teacher, you're just playing around in the sandbox, and nobody's guiding you, and it's just not effective. It's not effective instruction.
And let me just tell you, in the Senate hearing, they were in Georgia. The teachers that were promoting this way, this new way, they were saying it doesn't matter about getting the right answer. It's all about the process. It's teaching them about process. And
Doesn't make any sense.
no, it doesn't. And the right answer in math is really what matters. And what we're seeing is that those people who are promoting these new methods are actually trying to promote new testing that goes along with it, so that the testing will actually drive the curriculum. And for instance, you will hear it said that American students are 32nd in the world on these international tests. Well, it matters what test that they're talking about. If it's on the PISA, one of those tests, then yeah, it's all about process. It's all about fuzzy math. But if you look at the TIMS test, which is about content knowledge, academic knowledge, we are in the top 10 nations of the world.
Okay, this is they no longer say on this that this is internationally accepted or approved because they couldn't get that.
That's
they couldn't
right.
get it. It says now internationally observed or
They're informed by
international standards.
You know what? This book that Professor Tinkin of Seton Hall just came out with, School Reform Landscape, Fraud, Myths, and Lies. I'm just plugging it. I have never met the man, but it's a great book, and it teaches that the emperor is wearing no clothes. It's so serious and so sad, but at the same time it's hilarious because we've all fallen for this thing that is without empirical evidence. If you go to the Utah State School Board or any school board, I'm assuming, if you go to the Department of Education, if you go to the official website of the NGA CCSSO who copyrighted these standards, they all say the same wonderful, beautiful, and bland is what I call
slogans.
them. Beautiful and bland slogans. And the slogans say we're going to create international competitiveness, we're going to improve rigor, and we're going to use the human capital, which is a word I hate because it sounds like slavery to me. They use the same slogans and people buy it. In fact, we've got all kinds of people in Utah, at least I'm sure it's the same in every other state, going around and saying the same slogans without references. I taught English for many years, right? I get a research paper. I say to the student, where's your footnotes? Where's your references? That's the least you can expect from the State Office of Education or the Department of Education, in the case of Arne Duncan. Same thing. They just don't base it on anything other than what I consider to be propaganda. And it's left-wing propaganda. It is going away from our parental rights, our constitutional rights, God-given rights.
The PTA will be
away.
obsolete, right? There's no reason for
Well,
PTA.
let's say this. The Gates Foundation, which has promoted all of these standards, they've given money to the PTA to come on board. They've given money to the Chamber of Commerce to come on board. Their money's going a lot of places to help promote this Common Core. And in fact, if you
again, play devil's advocate, Bill Gates is a really smart guy. If he wants Microsoft to continue, he knows we're going to have really smart...
But we didn't elect him. This is a republic. We need to have a voice. I'm fine with corporations putting their money and giving ideas, developing ideas for education. But when they say this is how you're going to do it, and they foist it on the states, and his people go to the U.S. Department of Education to be the right-hand woman of Arne Duncan, the right-hand man then of Arne Duncan, when those people are in control and they help craft this Race to the Top grant, and they have funded the development of the standards, and then they make it a requirement of the Race to the Top grant to adopt these Common Core standards, and you go all the way around Congress, you go all the way around the legislative branch of every state in this union. I mean, we're talking about a end-run around our constitutional authority.
Well, hang on just a second. It's my understanding that it did go through each state house.
Not the legislature. The legislatures, they are our voice. They haven't a clue what went on.
So
this is the executive branch off the chain. They are off the chain, and our legislature must bring them to account. And the people need to make sure our legislature is bringing them to account.
Yeah, no state legislature voted on the Common Core when it was ushered into the states. This happened in 2009, 2010, and it was in the stimulus bill, and it was in the climate of the states are facing fiscal and economic disaster. they need stimulus money. They had better grab as much stimulus money as they can.
Get it out now? Is it too late?
The states still have their constitutional authority, which gives them the authority over education.
What is the pain that they will feel now pulling out?
Depends from state to state.
I think it's more costly to stay in the Common Core just from a fiscal standpoint. From a moral standpoint, it's definitely more costly.
Okay. We're going to be called Neanderthal men. Because you just don't want to go with this new system. We want to hold everybody in the past, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you possibly fight it?
Well, I'm sorry. I really believe that it's individuals. It's just one teacher, one mom, one dad, one school board member at a time who does their homework and says, where's your evidence? Stop saying it's rigorous. Stop saying that it's constitutional. Where's your evidence? And don't back down. Don't just roll over and say, oh, our hands are tied. You know, somebody bigger than me or more famous than me thinks it's good, so it must be good. No, do your own homework. It is not good. Anybody who's done their homework knows the Common Core is not good.
Okay, back in just a second.